Welcome to the Daily Vibecasting. Today, SpaceX targets a record-shattering $2 trillion IPO, billionaires play musical chairs with big tech stocks, and AI is coming for your bank account and your management job. Let's get into it.
Oh, it is a big day on the wire.
It really is. So welcome to the deep dive. If you're listening today, we are pulling the raw data straight from the day's financial and social wire. I'm going to be laying out the high-stakes moves happening right now while my co-host here breaks down the actual mechanics.
Yeah, we'll want to figure out who's holding the bag, who's quietly cashing out, all that good stuff.
Exactly. The systemic shifts right beneath the headlines.
Yeah.
Because you have to look at the whole chessboard, right?
Right. I mean, the market just reacts to a headline, but the real alpha that's found in the capital flows and, the regulatory friction that always follows.
Well, let's test that approach right away because the biggest data point hitting the wire today is just massive. We're tracking reports from at @unusual_whales and at Watcher Guru.
Huge accounts for this stuff.
Totally. So SpaceX has reportedly picked the NASDAQ for its initial public offering. They want to trade under the ticker symbol SPCX as early as June 12th. Wow.
June 12th.
Yeah. And the numbers here,
Yeah.
I mean, this is what makes it completely unprecedented. They are targeting a $70 to $75 billion raise at a valuation of $1.5 to $2 trillion.
Which is just, a $2 trillion valuation fundamentally breaks traditional underwriting models.
Right.
You're looking at a private enterprise being valued like a sovereign nation at this point. But honestly, the valuation is the least interesting part of the filing.
Wait, really? How is $2 trillion not the most interesting part?
Because you have to look at the equity mechanics. They are utilizing a dual-class share structure.
Oh, right. Which means they issue, like, different tiers of stock.
Exactly. So retail investors get one tier, but the founder gets a special tier with super voting rights. Elon Musk retains total operational control no matter how much equity the public actually buys.
So it's the ultimate flex of leverage.
Totally. The structure explicitly tells the public market, you're permitted to give us liquidity, but you have zero say in our corporate governance.
And the retail market is just completely willing to accept that because of the sheer gravity of the brand.
Yeah, but this raises severe liquidity concerns. Like, we're seeing a post from @SawyerMerritt highlighting this warning from Jim Cramer.
Oh, Cramer weighed in.
Of course he did. He's arguing that an IPO of this magnitude will act like a black hole. Like, it's going to suck so much institutional and retail liquidity out of the broader market that it could trigger a destructive correction.
But the response from the SpaceX community to that was completely dismissive. I mean, SawyerMerritt basically thanked Cramer, and Musk just replied with phew.
Right, they're treating it as the classic inverse Cramer bullish signal.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah.
But look, I actually reject the bubble narrative entirely here.
You do?
Yeah, because a bubble requires the dislocation between price and reality. But look at the actual physical execution happening this week. SpaceX just announced the Falcon 9 CRS-34 mission to the International Space Station.
Right, with the reusable Dragon capsule.
Exactly, on its 6th flight.
Right.
Reusability completely changes the unit economics of spaceflight. And then over on the public sector side, at NASA, posted this video of the Artemis II crew, the team heading to the moon.
Oh, yeah, they're at the Capitol, right?
Yeah, doing a victory lap at the U.S. Capitol with their zero-gravity indicator plush toy, Rise. There is deep, bipartisan, institutional lock-in for a fully realized lunar economy. I mean, this is heavy industry. It's not vaporware.
Well, sure, the heady industry in orbit is undeniable, but you're completely ignoring the immediate terrestrial impact.
What do you mean?
The most disruptive piece of SpaceX isn't the rocket, it's the payload. It's Starlink. Look at the infrastructure rollout at S.E. Robinson Jr. is reporting today.
Oh, the Uganda license.
Yes. Starlink just secured a massive operational license in Uganda, totally bypassing traditional telecom gatekeepers.
Well, yeah, because laying fiber optic cable is brutal. Trenching fiber costs tens of thousands of dollars a mile, assuming you can even get the land rights.
Exactly. And Starlink just requires a clear view of the sky and a receiver dish.
It's a total leapfrog event for underserved regions.
It is. It destroys the traditional telecom moat, which, relied on the prohibitively high capital expenditure of digging those trenches. But, and here's the cynical part, apply that same low-friction connectivity to the domestic market.
Okay, where are you going with this?
Clay Travis has a viral post today ranting about Starlink's new airline Wi-Fi. He was doing flawless, high-definition FaceTime calls at 35,000 feet.
Wow.
He claims it actually outperformed his ground reception.
Which feels like a miracle if you've ever tried to load like a basic text email on legacy airline Wi-Fi.
Technologically, yes, it's a miracle. But think about the behavioral nightmare this unlocks. Starlink solves the bandwidth bottleneck, but it totally demolishes a social boundary.
Oh man, I didn't even think of that.
Right. Do you really want to sit in a confined metal tube for 6 hours while the person in the middle seat is loudly conducting a performance review on FaceTime?
That is, wow, that is a deeply uncomfortable realization. 30 people screaming into their iPads all the way from JFK to LAX.
Exactly. The technology removes a physical barrier but fails to account for human friction. We're engineering solutions that just create entirely new categories of social fatigue.
So SpaceX is clearly trying to own the physical infrastructure of the 2030s, right?
Yeah.
Both in orbit and in global connectivity. But let's look at what the heavyweights are doing with the digital infrastructure of today.
You're talking about the massive rotation in legacy tech holdings.
Yeah. We're seeing some wild capital flows here. Like, according to Co-Bestseller, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation just liquidated 100% of its Microsoft position.
Which is, what, 7.7 million shares? Just gone?
Gone. Meanwhile, Bill Ackman announced his fund, Pershing Square, is selling off its stake in Alphabet Google specifically to free up capital to buy Microsoft.
It's musical chairs.
It really is. And yet, Trump-Fan points out that Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway is going the exact opposite direction. They just triple their Alphabet holdings to a massive $16 billion.
Right, so you have three of the most sophisticated pools of capital on Earth taking entirely divergent bets on the same two monopolies. It looks totally contradictory if you just glance at the surface.
So how do you read the mechanics here?
You have to isolate the constraints of each player. Gates liquidating Microsoft, that's not a bearish macro signal. The foundation operates on a scheduled spend down. Their charter requires them to disperse their endowment for philanthropy by a specific date.
Oh, so it's structural liquidation. It's not a market bet.
Exactly. Ackman, however, runs a hedge fund with a finite capital base. He has a hard ceiling on his deployable cash.
So for him, every purchase requires a sale. It's an opportunity cost equation.
Right. He isn't necessarily saying Google is a bad company. He's just calculating that at current multiples, Microsoft offers a better risk-reward ratio for his specific timeline. But the Berkshire Hathaway position, that's the true anomaly here.
Totally, because Buffett built his entire legacy avoiding technology companies he claimed he didn't understand.
Yeah, but Trump-Fan pulled this crucial piece of context from the 2019 Berkshire Annual General Meeting. Charlie Munger and Buffett explicitly admitted they screwed up by missing the Google IPO.
And the reason they realized their mistake is fascinating. It was because of Geico, right?
Yep. They were looking at Geico's ledger and saw they were paying Google $10 every single time someone clicked an ad for car insurance.
And when you own the digital toll booth, your cost to facilitate that click is effectively zero.
That is the magic of zero marginal cost. If you build a car, the second car costs almost as much in steel and labor as the first.
Right.
But if you build a search engine, the billionth search costs fractions of a cent in electricity, but you still charge the advertiser $10. Munger realized it was the ultimate compounding machine.
So seeing them triple down on Alphabet in 2026, it suggests the old guard of value investing has stopped viewing these companies as risky tech bets and started viewing them as global utilities.
Exactly. They are the new utilities.
Well, if these platforms are the new utilities, then the AI models they're all racing to deploy are the grid. But everyone is looking at the wrong bottleneck here.
Oh, you mean the obsession with GPUs?
Yes. We keep obsessing over the chips, right? The GPUs made by companies like NVIDIA. But at A16Z published data showing the real choke point is actually memory.
Yeah, prices for DRAM and NAND have doubled and tripled year over year.
Right. Everyone rushed to buy the engine, the GPUs, but they forgot the car needs a fuel tank, which is memory. Let's define why that hardware distinction actually matters for you listening.
Sure. So a GPU is the brain doing the math, but GRAM dynamic random access memory, that's your working desk space. It's volatile short-term memory that holds the data the GPU needs right this very second.
And NAND is the flash storage. It's the permanent filing cabinet.
Right, so if you have the fastest brain in the world but your desk is tiny, the brain just sits there idle, waiting for someone to fetch the next file from the cabinet.
Which is insanely inefficient.
It's known as the von Neumann bottleneck. Moving data back and forth between storage and processing actually costs more time and energy than doing the computation itself. The AI models have grown so massively complex that they are literally starving for memory bandwidth.
And that starvation is making legacy hardware companies incredibly rich. Like Samsung and Micron are seeing a 453% net income surge just from supplying this memory.
They aren't selling the AI brain, they're selling the oxygen it needs to breathe.
Wow, that's exactly it.
But there is a highly cynical addendum to that Samsung profit surge. At Risk Kamalosix highlighted this brutal piece of context this week.
Oh, the tax bill. This is crazy.
It is. The founding family of Samsung just finished paying off the largest inheritance tax bill in South Korean history, $8 billion.
I mean, you cannot script that timing.
You really can't. The global frenzy to build the future of artificial intelligence generated the exact liquidity required to preserve a dynastic old-world wealth transfer. The cutting edge is literally bankrolling the establishment.
It makes you wonder what all this impossibly expensive memory is actually computing day to day. Like, what is it actually doing?
Well, we have a concrete example from at GDP, Greg Brockman at OpenAI.
Yeah, he shared insight from a developer who now runs the Codex AI on every single code commit.
Right. And for the listener not writing software, a code commit is essentially hitting save on a new piece of a massive architectural blueprint. In the past, a senior engineer had to manually review that new code to make sure it didn't break the rest of the application.
But now the AI agent automatically reviews the commit for security flaws, spam, bugs, all of it.
Instantly.
Yeah. They have completely replaced the human peer review bottleneck with a synthetic agent that operates 24/7. And that level of automation is bleeding directly into consumer finance, which is wild.
Yeah, the Popbase report.
Exactly. At Popbase dropped a report that OpenAI is planning to let users connect ChatGPT directly to their personal bank accounts via Plaid.
And Plaid is the digital plumbing that allows third-party apps to securely read your bank ledger. But look, the integration of an LLM with personal finance is structurally terrifying. Large language models are probabilistic.
They guess with absolute confidence.
Exactly. Wait, no, let me rephrase that. They don't just guess. They construct a reality based on training weights. They do not query a factual database. Asking a probabilistic text generator to offer hyper-curated advice on your Charles Schwab retirement account or your Bank of America ledger is fundamentally misaligning the tool with the task.
I hear that. I understand the technical risk. But you're underestimating the consumer psychology here. That Omar tweets made a brilliant point about this exact tension.
About Gen Z.
Yes. Gen Z does not view data privacy as an inherent right to be protected. They view it as a currency to be spent.
Which is wild to me.
But it's true. They will happily hand over their transaction ledger, their camera roll, their location data if the AI makes their daily workflow 10% more efficient.
You're trading systemic security for incremental convenience.
But that is the entire modern tech playbook. Look at the report from @Mark on Apple. They are reportedly preparing to hand out $249 AirPods Pro 3 for free, completely free, to anyone who signs up for an Apple Card in a physical store.
Which means Apple is willing to eat a massive upfront loss on premium hardware.
Why? Because the customer acquisition cost is worth it.
Because the hardware is a loss leader for the data. Once you use the Apple Card, they map your consumer behavior, your geographic spending habits, your credit utilization. They monetize the metadata of your life.
Right.
Whether it's OpenAI analyzing your bank ledger or Apple subsidizing headphones to track your purchases, the goal is total ecosystem capture.
And if the data pipeline is the new battleground, that bleeds directly into how we actually process our daily lives and our careers. Like Atlassian published research on this new archetype of the tech workforce, the HIC, or high-impact individual contributor.
Wait, the solo developer.
Yeah, because an engineer now has AI agents handling all the grunt work. The code generation, the bug testing, the deployment scripts. A single developer can ship enterprise-scale projects completely solo.
The leverage per employee is going exponential. But look at the structural fallout of that.
A hollowing out.
Exactly. If one HIC can accomplish the work of 5 mid-level engineers, the corporate requirement for middle management just evaporates. You don't need project managers to align a team of one.
We're looking at the creation of a barbell economy. The compensation for that solitary high-impact worker goes to the moon because their output is staggering.
But the entry-level roles.
The entry-level roles that used to teach people how to eventually become that senior worker, they get automated out of existence.
You're hollowing out the ladder. And we're offloading more than just cognitive desk work, right? We're offloading physical navigation, too. At Peter Diamandis highlighted the latest telemetry from Tesla's full self-driving software.
Telemetry being the raw, real-world data constantly beamed back from the fleet to Tesla's servers.
Right. And according to their internal metrics, Tesla's supervised FSD is now experiencing only one major collision every 5.3 million miles.
That's insane.
The U.S. average for a human driver is one collision every 660,000 miles.
Meaning the algorithm is statistically operating 8 times safer than the average human. Now, the caveat there is the word supervise.
Right, a human is still legally required to sit in the driver's seat and take over if the system fails.
Which arguably prevents a lot of those collisions from happening in the first place.
Sure, even with that caveat, the trajectory is clear. We are steadily outsourcing our interpretation of the physical world to sensor arrays and predictive models. But there is a psychological breaking point to this.
The uncanny valley of reality.
Exactly. When the technology masters the environment, our baseline perception of reality begins to fracture.
Which perfectly brings us to Paul Graham's observation today. Ed Haralog shared a photograph of a historic building in Cambridge. It was real.
But it didn't look it.
Not at all. It had perfect golden hour lighting, pristine green grass, immaculate framing. And his commentary was chilling. He said, "Sometimes real life looks surprisingly AI-generated."
We are experiencing a visual feedback loop. Generative AI models are trained on billions of the best, most aesthetically optimized photographs humans have ever taken.
Right.
So the algorithm learns that good equals hyper-perfect lighting and flawless composition. Now, the models flood our feeds with synthetic perfection.
So when we actually encounter a beautiful, perfect moment in the real world, our brain's defense mechanism flags it as fake. The algorithm has permanently raised our threshold for believing our own eyes.
We're projecting the rigid parameters of the machine back onto the natural world, and you see society trying to apply that same algorithmic rigidity to incredibly nuanced human systems, too.
Oh, like the Hollywood debate.
Yes. Consider the viral debate sparked by @Subio_Doge regarding Hollywood's representation and inclusion standards.
Right. These were the criteria introduced by David Rubin back in 2020. They mandated that films must hit specific diversity thresholds across race, gender, sexual orientation, or disability to be eligible for Best Picture.
And if you look at this purely from a systems architecture perspective, it's a profound clash of methodologies.
So?
Well, critics argue that applying a rigid checklist to art prioritizes compliance over creative merit, essentially forcing a chaotic human process into a sterile, predictable output.
But supporters countered that the legacy system was already running a biased algorithm, and these explicit rules are the only way to hard-code structural fairness into an industry that's super resistant to change.
Exactly. But fundamentally, it is society attempting to manage human complexity the exact same way a programmer manages code.
We are trying to build safety rails for human nature, but humans just don't compile neatly.
No, they don't.
All right, let's pull the threads together for you listening. We started with SpaceX commercializing the vacuum of space, fundamentally altering how we value infrastructure. We watch the smartest capital on Earth ruthlessly rebalance away from the physical and toward the digital toll booths of Microsoft and Alphabet.
We expose the massive hardware bottlenecks secretly enriching legacy memory manufacturers as AI demands more fuel.
Yes, and we mapped how these models are reshaping our reality, demanding access to our bank accounts, replacing the middle tier of the global workforce, and making us literally question the authenticity of the world around us.
The through line here is undeniable.
So what's your prediction for tomorrow based on all this?
If I'm looking at the next 6 months, my prediction is a harsh wake-up call for the market. Everyone is assigning infinite value to the software labs building the AI brains. But the durable monopolies of the next decade will be the legacy hardware firms controlling the memory bottlenecks and the platform ecosystems that successfully convince consumers to trade their deeply private financial data for a slight increase in convenience. He who controls the data pipeline controls the model.
They aren't selling the intelligence. They're selling the oxygen it needs to survive.
I love that framework.
It's the only way to look at it.
Which leaves me with a final thought for you to carry into your day. If we are so eager to let probabilistic software analyze our life savings, to let autonomous scripts write our corporate code, to let cameras steer our vehicles, and to restructure our entire careers just to avoid managing other human beings, at what point does managing people stop being a profession and simply become a nostalgic hobby?
That's a great question. Keep an eye on your peripheral vision. The infrastructure is changing faster than you think.
We will catch you on the next deep dive. Keep questioning the consensus.